Okay, everybody, thank you and welcome to our workshop that Free Media Institute is organizing today. First of all, please accept our apologies for being, as usual, a bit late. We were supposed to have more people with us today, but unfortunately we had a few accidents. I mean, some of our participants, they lost their planes. One of them lost his plane, but he finally made it today morning. Anyhow, we will have some of our participants who lost the plane. They will be connected to us via Skype. As it was announced before, our workshop today deals with the issue of the conflicts in the Middle East, radical groups and ideologies. Before we start our presentation, we would like to, in a way, present each other, who we are and what we do. So I'm starting from myself. My name is Dr. Orsi Azizji. I'm the director of the Institute of Free Media Institute here in Tirana. I'm also a history lecturer in 2 universities, and I write a lot about the situation of Islam, Muslims, radicalization, the situation in the Middle East, history of the Ottoman Empire, and so forth. So after me, will you, Georgi, be next? All right.
Well, I am Anasi. I teach at the journalist university in Toulouse. I am a journalist focused on investigative journalism, weapons trade and smuggling, organized crime, drug trafficking, and things like this are my favorite topics, and that's it.
My name is Anne Codervandish, and I'm from Great Britain. I work in the area of counter-terrorism, mostly currently in prevention of people joining terrorist groups. Wait for my presentation so I will explain what I do.
Uroš?
My name is Bobic. I'm from Sputnik in Serbia. The news agency Portal and Radio, mainly radio times. And I won't be presenting today, but I'm following the conference and talking to next interviews with participants from India.
Excuse me. Can you introduce yourself? All right. All right. Yona? All right. Ship. Sumie. Sumie. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm an economist. I'm interested to Middle East, conflict and ideology.
All right.
I'm a digital researcher
Okay.
for this area.
I am Ömer Öztürk. I am working as an analyst at the Middle East Foundation Ankara, and I am also an editor of the Syria Geneme, which is a forum for the war in Syria, and I'm also the founder of Syrian War.
All right, excellent. We have with us some people who didn't get their visa in time, unfortunately. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs doesn't work properly these days to give them the visa. So with us is Pervez Bilgrami. He's from India. He was supposed to have been here, but unfortunately he could not make it. So we hope we will have him on Skype introducing himself to us if he picks up. Okay, he's not picking up. All right, let us try Vedran. Vedran also lost his plane yesterday. He was delayed at the Croatian-Italian border because he was supposed to get his plane from Verona.
Hello.
Hi, hello Vedran. We are calling you, and I don't know if you cannot see us. We are everybody here, so we just wanted you to introduce yourself to our guests, and we will call you later on.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. First of all, I'm very sorry I'm not with you in Tirana. Unfortunately, I had a big problem on Croatian-Slovenian border, where the Slovenian border guard suggested us to rethink about Schengen and everything else. So I was stuck there for almost an hour, and I lost my connection to my plane. My name is Vedran Obuchina. I'm a political scientist from Croatia. I'm also an old Catholic priest, and my specialization is in Middle East and interreligious dialogue. What I will be talking today is the threats of takfirism in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Basically one of the most interesting countries in the Balkans regarding the takfiri initiatives and actions. So I hope your work will be interesting, and I'll see you soon, and then we will have time to debate about my article.
All right, Vedran, we will call you in maybe 1 hour or something. We'll talk later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have Pervez here. Hello, Pervez.
Yes, hello.
All right, we are here with our guests. I don't think that you can see them, but you can certainly see me. We are just starting our workshop, and we just wanted to have an introduction from you, and then we'll call you to make your presentation probably in 1 hour or so. So if you can just introduce yourself.
Yes, this is Pervez Bilgrami. Unfortunately, I could not make my physical presence there, but thanks to the technology, I am available through video link. I am a geopolitical analyst and a researcher on Middle Eastern studies. Basically, my focus country is Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. I have been extensively writing on many media platforms in Turkey and elsewhere, including Asia Times and Indian Express in India, on the geopolitics of Middle East. And also my focus research is on Shia-Sunni relation in the region and its its impact on the geopolitics of the region. This is how my brief introduction is.
All right, thank you very much. We will call you later on, and we're continuing with our presentation. Have a nice day.
Sure, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right, so as I explained before, we have two more people who are going to join us. One is Patrick Henningsen, but he doesn't seem to be online now. He's in UK. And we have Navid Nasser, who is in Croatia, and he also was supposed to come here, but he didn't come, so I forgot this. All right, so after doing the presentation, let us start with our papers. As we have shown in the program, the first one who's going to speak is me today. So my presentation is about MEC, Daesh, PKK, FETÖ, and terrorism as a geostrategical weapon of imperialist powers. So when was it? Like a few weeks ago, I published one opinion piece at Daily Sabah, which is one of the biggest newspapers in Turkey, with the title "Double Standards in Albania's Fight Against Terrorism." And in my piece that I wrote for Daily Sabah, I was showing how on November 7, Albania's Court of Serious Crimes charged charged with detention terms two Albanian Muslims believers and changed their detention from prison to house arrest. The detainees, they were Jazair Fishti and Medat Hassani. They are two Salafi believers who were arrested in November 2016 by Albanian anti-terrorism units. They were arrested on a suspicion that they were planning to attack the Israeli football team, which was scheduled to play with Albania on 12 November 2016. Well, as I said in the time, because in the time I went on our national televisions, I think I went in Opinion here, which is a debating program. And in the time I argued and I said that the charges against these people and all the noise that was made in the time, it seemed to me to be a fake noise, because our government, which in my articles quite often I describe it as Islamophobic, uses Islamophobia and the blame of Muslims in order to cover its dirty dealings. So these Salafi believers, who were two of some 150 Muslim believers who the Albanian police detained in November 2016, were some of the people that were mass arrested or detained by our government. As you who are from Albania might know, it has become a tradition of our government. Whenever Pope comes to Albania or the Israeli team, they start mass arresting Muslim Salafi believers. If you have a beard, if you look a bit strange, you have short pants, and you believe that the priests or the imams of Saudi Arabia are holy men, or in the past you have expressed some sympathy for the Syrian jihad, then you are on the watch list of our government. So what our government did when the Israeli team came here like a year ago, they mass detained like 150 people, and out of this 4 people were charged as plotting to attack the Israeli team. This anti-terror operation was coordinated along with the Kosovar police, which arrested on their part 19 other Muslim believers under the excuse of plotting to attack the Israelis as well. But what happened now, a year later, the Court of Serious Crimes of Albania did not find any incriminating evidence against the arrested and was forced to release them from jail and instead to send them into house arrest. In that time, with Migena Bala, we even organized a debate. We interviewed some of the detained, One of them was Imam from Kosovo, and they showed how they were beaten in police custody by the special police units, and how they were mistreated, how they were insulted, etc. Before this, there was a woman in the city of Shkodra. She was also detained and charged for inciting terrorism. You probably know her story. Her video was shown at STOP, investigative program here. She was a teacher, and the only scene that she made, it was a stupid thing that she said, but in my opinion, as an analyst, she didn't commit a crime. She just said that ISIS is good. For this reason, this lady was forcefully detained, sent to police stations, beaten. She had even her scarf forcefully removed. And until this very moment, she is under house arrest. This teacher happened to be a teacher in one Turkish madrasa, which is sponsored by a foundation that is close to the present government in Turkey. Some rumors in that time tried to explain her detention as a kind of Cold War between the Turkish government and the Fethullah Gulen group, which in Albania at present runs most of the madrasas and Islamic institutions of this country. So the Albanian government has since 2014 that has been very aggressive on arresting Sunni Muslims, surveilling their mosques and civil society organizations as part of its policies for fighting terrorism. The pressure by the American administration and the US Embassy in Tirana, our Albanian government has charged and jailed dozens of Muslim believers and imams who sympathized the Sunni jihad, has confiscated properties to people that the government has charged as belonging to terrorist organizations. And in this fight against terrorism, our Albanian government has quite often been supported by the government in Turkey. The Turkish government has extradited, the government of Turkey has extradited even some terror suspects or people who were believed to have joined the Syrian jihad. However, while the Albanian government has been more than zealous in appeasing the Americans during their fight against terrorism and cracking down on Salafi jihadi sympathizers, it has not shown the same zeal for fighting other terrorist organizations that presently operate or have their members hiding in Albania. We have at present two other organizations which two foreign countries claim to be terrorist organizations that operate in Albania. The first is the FETÖ, or the Fethullah terrorist organization, which the Turkish government claims that members of this organization are in Albania and they're hiding. And the second is the Mujahedin al-Halq, or otherwise known as MEK, another Iranian terrorist organization which advocates the violent overthrow. Too much time, probably those people that have questions, you can take notes. And please, Kamil, please, I'd like, if possible, not to talk too much when we are talking in here. So when we have the question time, you can make the questions. So without much delay, I would like to call Omer, and Omer is going to do his. Do you want the PowerPoint? All right. So you just put this wire there, and we have Omer. Omer is an expert on so many things of what's going on in Syria, and please enjoy. All right.
So, first of all, thank you for this conference and hosting me here. And I would like to speak about the foreign fighters in Syria, especially leftist radical groups, and the role in Syria and the future threat towards the West. And I want to begin with a map of area control in Syria. This map was done by me from Surya Geneme, which I'm an editor of. And this map shows the areas controlled by the Assad regime in red, the areas controlled by the Syrian opposition in green, the last areas controlled by ISIS in black, and the areas controlled by the YPG in yellow. So I will speak about the YPG area. So in the presentation you have to have this map in your mind, and I will use YPG and PYD exchangeable because I will explain that the PYD is the political part of the YPG and YPG is the military part. So first of all, who is the YPG? YPG is the Syrian branch of the PKK. PKK for itself is a internationally designated terrorist organization from the EU, from the United States of America, from Turkey and United Nations. So the US administration, who is working with the YPG, especially after the battle in Kobani against ISIS, is saying that there are no links between the YPG and the PKK, and they are two separate groups. So this claim doesn't fulfill the reality, and the reality is much more different than the US administration claims. First of all, to show the links between the YPG and the PKK, we have to look what is the YPG saying. They themselves are saying in their doctrine that they are obeying to the orders of the KGK and to the Kongregel. Kongregel and KGK are the supreme political body of the PKK, which is coordinating all of the many groups within the PKK structure. So if you can see in this map that this side, the PKK is linked to the KGK, and the KGK is linked to the YPG, the PYD. So this structure is showing the links between the PKK and the YPG. And the YPG is saying in its own doctrine that any member of the PYD has to obey to Abdullah Öcalan, see him as the great leader, and act and demand his freedom. And no member within the YPG can say anything against Abdullah Öcalan, and he's the great leader. Even after the capture of Raqqa from ISIS, the former self-declared capital of ISIS, the PYD made a declaration with a huge flag of Abdullah Öcalan. And when the United States of America said that Abdullah Öcalan is not a person who deserves respect, the PYD made a propaganda film saying, we captured Raqqa and we fought against ISIS thanks to Abdullah Öcalan. He is a great leader. The ideology given to us by Abdullah Öcalan is the power which empowered us against ISIS, and denying the fact that the United States of America were the real factor against their fight against ISIS. Another point which shows the links between the PKK and the YPG is the senior cadres within the YPG. 80% of the leadership of YPG are former PKK veterans. So I have here some examples like Bahous Erdal or Chia Kobani, or even Fazl Gıtak, known as Ahmed Sheker, or Dilan Riha Mohammed. There are many more former PKK veterans, high senior members of the PKK, who are now commanding the YPG structures. Even on the ground source told me that many military commanders, commanders on the ground, commanders of little units, can speak Turkish. So a Syrian Kurd normally can't speak Turkish, but a Kurd from Turkey who was in the PKK structure, they normally, all of them speak better Turkish than Kurdish. So this reality on the ground and this structure shows us the obvious links between the PKK and the YPG. Here are two other members like Ferhat Dek and Fuat, and Halide and Sofi Nurettin. I want to speak a little bit more about Sofi Nurettin. Sofi Nurettin was the main link with Bahous Erdal between the PKK Central Command, the KGK, and the YPG. So the links between them are so obvious that to deny these links is like to deny the existence of the sun. The YPG itself saying that they are linked to the PKK. The cadres of the YPG leadership is dominated by PKK veterans, and even the PKK himself in his propaganda wits showed that they are fighting in the ranks of the YPG and giving them training and giving them organizational help. So it is estimated that an amount up to 2,000 PKK veterans are fighting in the ranks of the YPG. So, but the obvious link of all between them both in person is Salih Muslim, the leader of PYD, YPG. He is a close friend to Abdullah Öcalan, as shown in the picture below, and he was hosted by many European countries, and he was hosted by the United States of America, and he has met many Western politicians and military officials. So he is the leader of the YPG, and still the United States is denying links between the YPG and the PKK. Another important personality is the person second from the left. Give me a second that I don't say his name false. Shahin Jilo. So the person second from the left, this guy, he is very important because Turkey has struck an YPG ammunition depot in Syria, in Derek, in a city called Derek. And after this airstrike, the Special Operation Commander of the United States of America visited this place. And he was escorted by this guy. And he is on the watch list and most wanted list of Turkey. Turkey has a high price for him, killed or alive. So, I think 10 million must it be. 10 million Turkish lira. So, that's good. The question is, what has an American Special Operation Commander to do with this guy, and why is he escorted by him after a Turkish airstrike against YPG positions, if there's no links between the YPG and the PKK? So, after this airstrike, the United States of America condemned the Turkish airstrike, saying, why did Turkey attack our partner force on the ground? So the question arises, is the partner force of the United States of America a terrorist organization which is designated by the USA? And even until 2014, before the war in Kobane, the United States of America has himself listed the YPG as the Syrian branch of the PKK. Let me give you another last example before I go to the foreign fighters. This woman called Zozan Judi, she was interviewed for many documentaries about the YPG, and she was the so-called beautiful face of the YPG, and she was on many newspapers, she was on many media outlets, and showing the heroic women fighters against ISIS. So, where did she die? She died in Turkey after a Turkish airstrike, fighting for the PKK. So, a heroic personality within the ranks of the YPG was killed in Turkey fighting the Turkish armed forces. So, for years, this woman was cheered by the Western media, and we see here another double standard. But let's now come to the most important part about the PKK. So, many are now harmonizing the PKK, but I want to give a very symbolic topic about them. Suicide attacks. For me, suicide attacks, suicide bombings are very, very important. First of all, there's nothing more meaningful than a human life. So I don't have anything more meaningful than my own life. If it's gone, I don't have anything more. We know normally in Western media, suicide attacks from ISIS or from Al-Qaeda. And there were many arguing saying, yeah, they are doing these suicide attacks because they are believing in an hereafter, they believe in virgins in Jannah, and therefore they are making suicide attacks. But the question arises, why is PKK doing suicide attacks despite not believing in an hereafter? They are communists and they don't believe in an hereafter. So what kind of radical ideology must a person have to kill himself, to bomb up himself against civilians and armored forces and others, despite not believing in an hereafter. By ISIS, we have some kind of stupid explanation, but we have anything. But how we will explain a suicide conducted by a non-believing communist leftist PKK veteran? This is an important question. And this decision was given by Abdullah Öcalan personally. And he wanted that especially female members of the PKK conduct suicide attacks. So we can admit that in regards to gender equality, PKK is really good. They have male suicide bombers and female suicide bombers, so we can really approve and appreciate the gender equality. And some may say that the PKK has done suicide attacks in the past and they aren't doing it anymore, but well, it's others. With the experience against ISIS, the suicide bombing capabilities of the PKK improved. Firstly, in the past, they had only suicide vests, but now they are using, like ISIS, cars filled with bombs and exploding them in Turkey. For example, in March 2016, a female suicide bomber spent time in Syria, who came from Syria, bombed herself up in Turkey and killed many people. Or another PKK member killed 11 Turkish police force with a car bomb attack. So this suicide bombing shows us one important thing. The PKK has a radicalized ideology that is beyond imagination, that can't be emphasized and can't be understood really, because they don't believe in a hereafter, but they are bombing themselves. So this is a leftist ideology which don't believe in a hereafter and is killing themselves for the greater sake, and has a gender equality. So in this group, there's a legend. They have a legend created in Kobani against ISIS. The great heroic fighters of PKK, of YPG, have fought in Kobani against ISIS and have won this war with US air support. But there's a more in this legend. There's a person called Koban Murad. She blew herself up against ISIS force. So one may argue in the Western media, and there are many, that she's a heroic person because she blew herself up against ISIS, the evil impersonality. But to blow himself up is not explainable if it's against ISIS, because for the leftist radical ideology of the PKK, it's not important if it's ISIS or another great enemy like Turkey, or in the future maybe a great enemy like the United States of America, the imperial power. They can argue the same because the explanation, the argumentation is not in the enemy, it's in their own ideology. So anybody who has blown herself up against the Turkish armed force or against ISIS could have done the same against the United States of America or other Western countries. So let's come to the foreigners within the ranks of the YPG. There are many motivations for foreigners from Turkey, from Iraq, Iran, or the Western countries to join the YPG. Most of these foreigners are of Kurdish origin, and they joined the YPG from a national motivation, and they joined them to help the Syrian cause. But all of them had former links to the PKK structures in their home countries, and they were sympathetic to the PKK. And there are many organizations like NowDem in Germany who are recruiting from the Kurdish population in these countries to let them join the YPG in Syria. So there were many Kurds who has joined the YPG. But if we look to Syrian Kurdish civilians, up to 300,000 Kurdish civilians were now living in Turkey, and up to 150,000 Kurds, Syrian Kurds, are living in Iraq. And they don't live in the great area which I have shown you at the beginning, in the yellow area. So to join the YPG is nothing from a nationalist perspective, but from a radical leftist ideological perspective of the PKK. And there are many non-Kurdish foreign fighters within the YPG. one group of them are military veterans. Most of them joined in 2014 the YPG against ISIS. They wanted to show themselves responsible to fight against ISIS because they have the military training and they think that their states are not doing enough to fight against ISIS. And most of them come in touch with the YPG ideology firstly in Syria when they arrive there. These military veterans have brought to the YPG military experience, combat experience and military training. Some of them were alienated by the YPG ideology, saying they are reds and we don't love them, and saying they are ideologically too radical, so they came back to their home countries. But some stayed there and they accepted the ideology of the YPG, the leftist radical ideology. So this question is important. What will happen to a military veteran of the United States of America who joined the YPG or German army and accepted the ideology? What will happen to him when he comes back to his home country? This is an important question. Another part of the foreign fighters who joined the YPG are criminals and killers. So criminals and killers who have fled their countries to avoid justice, and they are responsible for many war crimes. For example, Tim the Cannibal, he's a crazy person, and he was arrested after some crazy stuff he had done. He had blown up an ISIS militant with an RPG and has started eating his food because it was cooked somehow, and he once drank the blood of his comrade. There are so crazy people within the YPG who have fought, because war is something who is psychologically really hard to sustain, and there are many criminals within the YPG who has now war experience in bomb building, experience in military structure, and experience in militant organizations' ideologies. And there are some others who joined the YPG for adventure and self-actualization. They are like war tourists who want to have combat experience as an adventurer. But even they don't have any leftist radical ideology before they joined the YPG. But after they joined the YPG, you have to conduct a course in ideological training. So in this training, they have come in touch with the political agenda of the YPG and are under an ideological indoctrination. But the most dangerous part of them, to my opinion, are the ideologies. These are anarchists, communists, and other leftist radical ideological members who joined the YPG to support their leftist agenda, to support Rojava. Rojava is a democratic confederalism. About democratic confederalism, it's an hardcore, radical leftist ideology, even within the leftist spectrum. And this democratic confederalism is used by the YPG in their aerial control. And some foreigners were confronted with this ideology before, but many of them adopted this ideology of democratic confederalism so much that they appear on YPG propaganda videos and saying, we are here to defend Rojava, this democratic confederalism, as a leftist project. We are here as anarchists to make a leftist state sustain, and we will defend them against any enemy, may it be Turkey or may it be United States of America in the future. So the YPG is especially using these foreigners' ideologies for its propaganda. And within its propaganda, they are trying to achieve a greater, to connect to a greater community. And these leftist radical ideologies will someday return to their home countries. And within the Syria, let me show you some other groups. So, this is the International Freedom Battalion, the battalion created by YPG for foreigners, and this are some of the groups within the International Freedom Battalion. And here, a Turkish Birleşik Özgürlük Güçleri of Marxist-Leninist organizations from Turkey, and here, Halkların Birleşik Devrim Hareketi, another Marxist-Leninist organization from Turkey, who is fighting in the ranks of the YPG. There are so many within these organizations who have connections to the home countries. So there is an office in Germany, and there's an office in northern Syria, and there's a connection between them. And the members of this two offices are daily speaking to each other. And there are some groups which, like the Bob Crow Brigade of British leftist fighters. So, let's come to Germany. I've chosen Germany because I'm a German citizen. I was born in Germany and I lived there until recently. In Germany, there were 5,620 criminal acts by German leftist organizations in 2015 and 5,230 criminal acts in 2016. And there are 28,500 radical leftist members according to German officials in Germany. And there are 14,000 active members of the PKK in Germany. But about the PKK, I can say that the demonstration organized by PKK in Germany has up to 40,000 demonstrations who participate in these demonstrations. So the number given by German officials might not reflect the reality. And there are 658 active members of DHKPG, a Turkish leftist radical group, and there are 1,300 active members of TKP, Mele, a Turkish leftist radical group, and there are 600 active members of Mele KPD, another Turkish leftist radical group. So, and 180 persons joined the YPG until 2017, and the number increased last year extremely because of the YPG is a project which succeeded, and the most thing which could be used as propaganda to gather more members is success. And thanks to the partners in the NATO, the United States of America, the YPG has an extraordinary success in Syria, and they are controlling now a vast area, and they have a story to tell about heroism, about success, about winning a war, about heroic fighters. So let's remember Hamburg G20 talks. It was a mess. The cars were burning, there were mass demonstrations by radical leftists in Germany, and the police in Hamburg couldn't manage the situation, so police force from all of Germany had to join them and help them, and it was a real mess. It was catastrophic. It was like a war. The streets were burning, the people were scared, and the cars of the people in Germany, of German citizens, were burning like it was a hell. So the question arises, this happened only at a meeting, at a political meeting. Only with radical leftists within Germany who don't have war experience, who don't know how to build bombs. They have burned the cars with Molotov cocktails, which is one of the easiest things to do, not with improve with the bomb device. And they don't have knowledge in militant structure. So when these veterans in Syria, one of the 180 militants in Syria who joined the YPG came back to Germany, and they have a great spectrum of radical leftists, and they have the experience, and they can teach them war, they can teach them bombing, they can teach them weapons, and they know how illegal weapons traffic is be done. So they can bring into Germany even weapons maybe from Balkans, because YPG is getting many weapons from the Balkans. So what will happen then? What will happen when radicals leftist ideology, who has been indoctrinated by the ideology which conduct suicide attacks, is now in Germany, and they might see in German state and capitalist system, which is the real enemy. The real enemy of radical leftists isn't ISIS, it is the capitalist system. And Germany is part of this capitalist system, and the United States of America, which is helping this radical leftists in Syria, is also the biggest enemy of the radical leftists. So they have seen in the YPG an example of success with terroristic methods. So they can do many terrorist attacks in the West in the future. But before going to the last picture, if I speak about this topic to diplomats, to journalists, or other security personnel, many of them are saying, yeah, it's a danger, but it's not so important because, yeah, and so on. But I want to remember one thing, and this is Afghanistan. The Afghan Mujahideen were supported by the United States of America against the enemy Russia. At that time, Russia was the biggest enemy. And the Afghan Mujahideen, they had among them a little group of foreigners. And among the little group of foreigners, there was Osama bin Laden. And the story of war in Afghanistan was a story of success. And this improved the radical Islamist ideology worldwide. And Al-Qaeda had an area control, and they have camps to indoctrinate their members, to train their members, and they conduct the terrorist attacks worldwide. And the world is now trying to finish the terrorism conducted by groups like Al-Qaeda or Daesh, which came from there. So we have already a story about America supporting a radical ideological group, which led to many terrorist attacks. So to say this danger of radical leftists in Syria isn't important is crazy. There's no guarantee that the radical leftists in Syria will not conduct a great attack on the United States of America or a terrorist attack on Germany or other European countries. So in Afghanistan, we supported the Afghan Mujahideen. In Syria, we support the Syrian Kurds. But they are radicalized persons who has foreigners who are more radicalized than the people of the country. So all in all, I want to say that the threat posed by the radical leftists in Syria is a real danger for the West, and it's not covered by the media or by the press or by the security force like it has to be done. Thank you for listening to me.